Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. Someone sent me a picture of a quilt and they wanted to know if I could show them how to make it. And the answer is maybe. So I get a lot of pictures and requests. People send in quilts that they've seen and they want to make something that looks like that one, for instance. And I'm not familiar with all the quilt patterns. This one looks very interesting. I don't know what it's called or where it came from, but I'm pretty sure I can come up with something that has a similar feel. So I've done my back of the envelope sketch here with some numbers. So let's get some fabrics and see what we can come up with. I've written the pattern so that it will use a fat quarter bundle. And I like the oranges and yellows in the picture of the quilt, but I'm going to use K facet prints because they have even more zip. The only other thing we need is a background. And I have this whole beautiful line from Northcott. These are called Toscana, and they have a little bit of color change. They make really good backgrounds for quilts because they're interesting. They're not too flat. And I want to go with a nice bright yellow. And we've got a lot of choices, and I think this one will be the best. We need 20 fat quarters, and that is what we have in this bundle here. And I always open them up and iron them nice and flat before I start cutting. I have everything all ironed here, and I like to cut 6, 7, 8 layers at a time. You may like to cut less, but everything is going to get cut exactly the same way. So I'm going to line this all up on here, and I'm going to cut it into 1.5 inch strips. So I'm going to get 11 of them all the way across here. Now I'm lining up my ruler with the lines on my cutting mat, and then I'm using a little hand weight, a little dumbbell, and that holds down my plastic ruler and helps keep it from sliding. So all of the fat quarters are cut into strips. And I'm going to make some strip units. So I'm going to make a strip unit that has 9 strips in it. And I'm going to want to put some lighter ones, or in my case, yellower ones, in the middle. So for the first strip unit, I'm going to use 3. Let's take these top 3. Then we're going to need a total of 6 that are darker. So let's see if we've got 6 here. Yeah, so we're going to make a strip unit with 3 of the darker ones, 3 of the lighter ones, and then 3 more of the darker ones. Now some of my strip units might end up with 4 yellows in the middle, and then I will have 3 darks on one side and 2 darks on the other. It doesn't really matter, but put your lighter ones in the middle and use a total of 9. Now let me tell you what a strip unit is, because you see that a lot of times in patterns. Basically, it's a series of strips that are sewn together. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam each time here. And I would recommend sewing one seam down and the next seam in the other direction. And that way, if you stretch things a little, or if your machine's tension is a little bit off, your whole strip unit will lay nice and flat. So I'm just going to grab these 2, and I'm going to try my best to not stretch anything. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam and go all the way down the edge. Now I like to finger press the seam to one side as I go. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to keep the seam going to the right, and I'm going to kind of hold it open with my hands, and then take my fingernail or even the pad of your finger and draw it right down that seam. Once that's done, I'm going to set this back where it came from, and then this piece is going to go on next. But I don't want to stitch in the same direction. I'm going to want to stitch this way. So I'm going to flip it upside down and start at this end. And that way the direction of my stitching will be alternated all throughout the strip unit. Now I like to, when I'm done with this, open it up and put it right back where it came from so that I know I don't get these out of order. If you think you might get it flipped around and you won't remember, take a pin or a sticker or something and put it in the upper left corner. So I'm going to press this seam the same direction. Then I'm going to sew on all the rest of these pieces. I have the first strip unit all stitched together. It's nice and colorful. And now, even though we finger pressed it, we're still going to want to iron it also. So I'm going to smooth it out with my hands, and I'm not going to worry too much that the ends are crooked because we have plenty of length to get what we're going to cut next. And I'm going to make sure those seams feel like they're going the right way, and I'm going to press it a little bit, first with a dry iron. Make sure those seams are all opened and there's no valleys in here. And then I'm going to get my yardstick or any sort of straight edge and make sure we are lined up nice and straight. And then I'm going to steam press it. Now we are going to cut this strip unit into 2 squares. So I'm just going to cut off a little bit of this excess on the one end, and I'm going to cut it into a 9.5 inch square. So I'm just measuring over 9.5, and I'm going to be able to get 2 of those out of this strip unit, even though my ends are kind of crooked here and not perfectly lined up. So here's what we've got now, 2 squares that are 9.5 inches. I finished all the strip units and I've got everything cut into squares. Now we need to cut some background, and that also gets cut into 9.5 inch squares. Now we're going to take one of each square here, put them right sides together, and we're going to stitch all the way around the edge. So we're going to go down this side first, and I'm going to stitch right off the end, 1/4 inch seam. I actually like to turn it around and do this side next. Do these 2 pieced sides first. Again, right down the edge. They're exactly the same size, so it's pretty easy sewing. And now I'm going to do these 2 non-pieced sides. Once you have all 4 sides stitched, it's best to iron this because sometimes as you stitch, it can get stretched a little. So let's steam it nice and flat. And now we want to cut along both diagonals. There's the first cut. If you're careful and don't move anything, you can just swing your ruler around and make both these cuts at the same time. So we cut through both those triangles. Now this is the square we have. It's half plain, half patchwork. Then we have another square here. It looks almost the same, but you'll notice the orientation of the strips. These are going this way and these are going that way. Now to iron these, put the patchwork side down, peel open the top, and press with your fingers a little bit so that this stays nice and straight. You don't want it bowing. You just want to press it a little bit towards the solid, then grab your iron and then give it a little steam. Now you're going to want to trim your dog ears off. That's that little extra piece there. And go ahead and make these blocks with all of your squares. Once you have all of these done, we're ready to build the block that's going to make our quilt. We need 8 of these where the strips are going up and down, and 8 where they're going side to side. So we're going to start with these up-down ones, and we're going to put 4 of them in the middle of a block. I'm going to put the bright yellow right in the middle. Now I'm going to take some of these side-to-side blocks, and we're going to put them around the edges. And I'm not going to worry about which fabrics are in which position. I'm just going to lay them where they go. When I'm all done, I may trade some of the blocks around if I don't like which fabrics are right next to themselves. So these go all around here and make little peaks. Now we're going to take the last 4 blocks and we're going to put the yellow in the yellow so it makes a nice long line there. And this is what our block is going to look like. So we end up with nice dark around the edges. We end up with some yellow in the middle here. And if you end up with 2 of the same print right next to themselves here, you can trade things around. I've got a little temporary table. Sometimes I will set up a little table next to my sewing machine when I need a little bit more space. Now, to sew the block together, We don't have to match anything except for the intersections between the blocks. So when this gets stitched to here, the seams do not line up on purpose, so there's no matching within here at all. You can just stitch right along there. So I'm going to make one row and press the seams to the right. Then I'm going to make the next row, press the seams to the left, to the right, to the left, and then sew all the rows together. I've got the 12 big blocks done. Now when we lay these out, we're going to get a little bit of a secondary pattern showing where these corners come together. So let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to get 4 of these nice triangular things making another small block in the middle here. So since there's only 12 blocks, we're going to have 3 blocks wide, 4 blocks long, stitch it up and get it on the quilting machine. The quilt is on the machine. It's nice and cheerful and bright. I really have 2 choices for thread colors. I'm either going to use this orange, which would show up very nicely on all of the yellow there, but I think I actually will use the yellow it's really the same color as the background. It's not going to show in here at all, but that's going to look really good when the quilt is done. I'm going to use a quilting pattern called Fidget. So here's what it looks like a little bit bigger. It's an all over squiggly design, and that's going to look really good on the bright colors of this quilt. I've got the whole quilt done. Really pleased with how it came out. Now we're calling this pattern Diamonds Squared because it looks a lot like we took these squares here out of the diamonds. It's amazing how a simple block, the procedure was very simple, made a very complex looking quilt. The fidget pattern looks really good on this yellow, and you can't see any of the thread in the prints. That's really fun. I used another K-facet print on the back side here. I love these big bold prints. This would look great if you just flipped the whole thing over. It turned out 69 by 92, so it's nice and big and pretty easy to make. Thanks for watching our tutorial today. We hope you enjoyed it. Now we're going to have another giveaway. We're going to give away this nice big scrappy flying geese quilt. You may have seen our tutorial on this. It's a fun pattern to make with an easy flying geese method, and these are all Kansas Troubles fabrics. It just looks so nice and cozy. Now it's easy to enter. Just click the link below the video that says giveaway. Put in your email address and your name, and you might be the lucky winner. Now if you want to make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Happy quilting!